One final blind date. The CEO was going to depart after 5 minutes, but she laughed him into eternal presence. Stood at the precipice of the fall festival. Hands buried in his coat pockets. Posture razor thin against the honeyed light of carnival lanterns. Laughter pierced the cool autumn air. Forever, the aroma of kettle corn and apple cider wafted by in waves, mingling with the rich acridity of dry leaves. Shouted cheer and nostalgia. He despised it. Too much noise, too much manufactured happiness. He was there solely due to his mother. See her, she had asked, firm but beseeching. 5 minutes. You owe me that much after all that's happened. So he was here, but with a condition. Feels wrong in 5 minutes. I leave. No regrets. It was how he treated people these days. Neat, effective, unemotional. The evening was being used as part of a good cause blind date raffle, charity. But it had been his mother who had planned everything out. For dinner, at some fancy restaurant, suits, highly polished floors, wine list. Instead, this a celebration, lanterns, cotton candy. The whole evening planned around pumpkins, hay bales, country music. He glanced at his watch. Then the crowd moved and he saw her. Hannah Pierce. She walked slowly towards him from the main entrance, silhouetted by the golden haze of string lights and leaves falling. Her hair was a soft gold. Tonight, danced gently by the breeze. A few strands danced across her cheeks, and she didn't take the time to straighten them. She had a plain coat, a light scarf tied loosely at her throat, and boots that clearly hadn't had as much style as use. No heavy makeup, insincere smile, just her, and for a moment longer than he intended, Daniel gazed. There was something rough around the edges about her, so. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She simply was. Then he blinked, and the moment passed, his face rehardened. Hannah, he said. She halted in front of him, beaming, cheeks flushed with wind. Hi, you're Daniel, curtly shaking her hand. Her hands were cold but smooth. Thank you for meeting me here, she said. I know it's not quite traditional. Shot her a glance, raising an eyebrow at the strobing lights and screaming children in the background. No white tablecloths, exorbitant wine. You obviously got the assignment wrong. Hannah laughed, and the sound caught him off guard. Not the laugh itself. Fell. Light, open, with the slightest suggestion of unself-consciousness. I asked your mother if we could get together somewhere. Low key, she said. I hate restaurants on first dates. Everything's so scripted, too dim. The food's too pricey, and everyone talks like they're trying out for a role. Daniel thought about that. And you chose this. I chose something real, she said. People are too busy having fun to pretend here. They started walking slowly through the booths. The conversation was tentative at first light, observing. She wasn't filling all the silences. She wasn't pressing questions. She allowed the pauses to sit, at ease with them. It was disturbing and oddly soothing. Then it occurred. Daniel shifted a little, ready to gracefully make his exit, to thank her for attempting it, to say a few good words, and then leave. But Hannah ceased walking. She glanced up at something behind him and smiled weakly. You ever been on that? She said. He looked to where she was looking to the Ferris wheel, stood tall and slightly weathered on the perimeter of the fairground, its lights flashing gold and blue. The creak of the rotating gears drifted softly through the air. I have not, he said truthfully. Not in a very long time. She cocked her head. Different up there. The town, I mean, when you look at it from an elevated position, quiet, well, lit in all the proper places, is a different world. Daniel didn't say anything. She glanced at him then, and for the first time, her face wasn't merely peaceful. "I used to visit here with my sister," she said. "Quieter now. It was our tradition. Ride the Ferris wheel once, no matter what else we did." He stood frozen, looking at her. The wind pulled at a lock of her hair, and she pushed it behind her ear, thoughtfully. Her storm, light eyes soft and even, not seeking anything, just being there. Daniel breathed out slowly. He had no idea why, but rather than leave, he found himself asking, "Would you like to ride it now?" She looked surprised. "If you don't have somewhere else to go, I don't," he replied. Magic. The rule, his meticulously built rule, crumpled. They did not dash to the Ferris wheel. Rather, strolled first by the radiance of string lights and laughter pouring out of booths. A ring toss had caught her attention, and without hesitation, she approached to play. Daniel quietly paid the booth operator and watched her miss each throw. Although she was smiling, as if she was winning, candy came next. She refused to take the blue one. "It is better tasting," she said. He rolled his eyes but ate when she insisted, ridiculously sweet. She smiled with satisfaction at his expression. A photo booth sat nearby, light flashing. Hannah hesitated. "Memento." Daniel did not say no. The photo strip that resulted showed her laughing, him slightly dazed, and in the final frame, pulling at his coat playfully. It was ridiculous, and he folded the strip in his wallet. Anyway, they moved at a slow pace, cold intensified, yet she appeared oblivious. He did, though not to the cold, to the way she navigated the night, as if it wasn't constructed of pointed corners. As if she'd come to terms with something. A long time ago, somewhere along the way, they walked past a stand full of stuffed animals and rubber ducks, floating behind a plastic curtain. Hannah halted. Her smile lost just a hint of brightness. Daniel observed her gazing at the row of toy ducks, spinning in circles. Nothing dramatic about her face, only quiet. "You all right?" he asked. She nodded. Then after a moment breathed quietly, "I wonder if I'm in the right field. Days I go home and think, maybe I'm not good enough to continue doing this." He didn't push. But something in the way she said it settled heavily in his chest, the toy rifle off the nearby counter, and held it out to her. "This time, you don't have to save anyone. Just shoot a duck." She regarded him and then suddenly laughed. It wasn't loud. It wasn't happy, but it was authentic. That bursts out before sadness has the final say. He grinned unintentionally. She missed her first 2 shots, made one, and glared at him, as if she'd won a championship. And for the entire night, the first time Daniel forgot to think about the time. For a minute, surrounded by blinking lights and the faraway music of carousel rides. He had no idea what this was turning into. It didn't feel like a mistake. Not anymore. "Buckle up for the Ferris wheel?" she asked, sweeping wind, blown hair out of her cheek, softly. "Yeah, I think I am." They arrived at the Ferris wheel as twilight darkened. Golden, blue bulbs twinkled drowsily against the dark indigo sky, a flickering light over the still fringe of the carnival. The line had grown thin. Everyone had made their way to the louder rides, more brash attractions. Hannah slowed at the door, saw the hesitation. "You okay?" "I'm fine," she said, smiling, but not quite reaching her eyes. He didn't ask further. They entered the cabin. It creaked under their weight. Old metal hinges, creaking as if recalling 1,000 trips previously. The door snapped closed as the wheel started to rise. The town drifted away gradually. the twinkling lights of the booths, from whirling rides, the rooftops, the trees, all dwindling. Hannah sat rigidly, hands in lap, back too straight, over at her. "You okay?" She nodded once, curt. Then a gust of wind caught the cabin, tilting it just slightly, out taking his. Daniel froze. Her fingers were cold. She didn't glance at him, simply kept her eyes fixed ahead. "I hate this." What the height? The feeling suspended. No control. Like if something goes wrong, I can do to stop it. He remained silent. She took a shaky breath. "It's how I felt when we lost him." Daniel turned to her. "I was talking about," she said softly. "The one I wasn't able to save. I was with him when he died." His mom was holding his hand. I just stood there watching the line flatten out, paralyzed. Her voice cracked. I thought I was strong, used to tell myself that I could cut it. But that evening, I was a child in scrubs. Daniel didn't react. He didn't shift. He allowed her to cling. Then the world went black. The wheel jolted to an abrupt halt in midair. Their cabin rocked. Below, all light disappeared, flashing bulbs, no music. Only wind's hush and the distant hum of emergency power. Hannah tensed next to him, holding onto the edge of the seat with her other hand. "Power outage," Daniel said smoothly. But she still didn't say anything. He could sense her fear in the way her fingers constricted around his. Without speaking, he took off his coat and draped it around her shoulders. He settled his hand back in hers. "We're fine," he whispered. "It's just a little darkness." Silence hung. Then her voice again, softer and more even. "I used to think that if I worked hard enough, cared enough, I could prevent people from dying." She stopped. "Sometimes you do everything right, and it still ends the same. Tells you how to look a mother in the eye when it happens and how to bring it back home." Daniel gazed out at the town in darkness, then at her. "I recognize that noise," he said. She turned to him. He nodded. "I was a surgeon." Her breath hitched. He went on, voice low. "Dr. Reeves, my mentor. We were half through a difficult procedure. Something wrong with the oxygen tube. Equipment malfunction." He took a long breath. "I did everything I could. There in my hands, a beat. The next morning, I quit. Walked out. I couldn't trust myself after that." Hannah's face softened. "Yourself?" "I didn't know who else to blame." Was quiet again. Then she said, "Maybe saving someone isn't always about fixing it. Maybe it's about being there when they're afraid, making them feel less alone." He gazed down at her hand in his no longer desperate. "You're doing that now," he said. "For me." She smiled at him, a fragile one. "And you're doing it for me too." Overhead, stars flickered alive. The town lay quiet beneath. The lights flared back on, soft initially, then lighting up. The wheel whirred. The ride restarted, but neither of them stirred. Their hands were still clasped. Her head rested lightly against his shoulder as the town shimmered again below them. Cotton candy booths, lanterns, music faintly echoing. Something else had changed, too. Not the world, the air between two people. And for once, it didn't seem like falling. It seemed like clinging. The Ferris wheel ride slowed down more than it started. As if even the worn machine knew something delicate had just occurred. When the cabin finally landed, Hannah and Daniel did not say a word. They just stepped out in silence, the space between them still suspended in the cool night air. Lights of the fairground blinking back on, games humming, carousels rotating, voices building up again like a score, starting again after so long a break. They walked in silence for a little while, saying nothing. Daniel pointed to an unoccupied wooden bench just off the path, away from the noise and lights. Hannah nodded, and they sat down. From where they sat, the entire fair lay before them, shining and buzzing like a warm recollection, still in process, at his watch involuntarily. His brow creased slightly. Hannah saw it. Looked like it was going to happen later than you wanted. He let out a soft breath. Almost not laughing. Just say I violated my own rule tonight. She cocked her head. What rule? He looked over at her sideways, the corner of his mouth lifting into a smile. 5 minutes. That's all I allowed myself for blind dates. Hannah smiled, tightening her scarf, had picked up brushing hair strands over her cheek. I guess I should apologize for that. Daniel shifted all the way towards her. You shouldn't. A hesitation. She gazed at her hands in her lap. I know I'm not the type of person people would be used to finding in your world, my world. You understand what I mean. Marble lobby hospitals, boardrooms, glass elevators. You most likely don't have a lot of nurses who still clip coupons and dine on cafeteria, Jell-O during double shifts. Daniel leaned forward a little, placing his elbows on his knees. You say that as if it's something to apologize for. It's not. It's just reality. He was silent for a moment. You didn't just keep me longer than 5 minutes, Hannah. You kept my mind from straying. Recently, that's more difficult than you know. That made her smile, small and genuine. They sat there a while longer, requiring more to be said. Hannah eventually looked over at the Ferris wheel again, now turning slowly under full illumination, the cabins filling with fresh voices and laughter. It's strange, she whispered, something about being up there that made everything feel smaller. Not unpleasantly, just clearer. Daniel trailed after her stare. Perspective has a way of doing that. She glanced over her shoulder at him. Thanks for what? For hanging around. He didn't reply immediately, just nodded. Then she rose, wiping her hands on her coat. I should get an early shift tomorrow. He stood too. I'll see you out. In silence, the golden warmth of the overhead string lights casting shadows on the pavement. She turned and faced him at the fringe of the festival. Well, she said with a slight smile. This was a surprise. He nodded well. She paused and held out her hand. Good night, Daniel. He grasped it lightly. Good night, Hannah. She began to leave slow and steady. He stood there observing her receding form, hands in pockets. She disappeared behind the corner, then slowly turned back. He had not budged. She offered the briefest smile before she turned again and disappeared into the street ahead. Daniel went the other way, beside the bench where they had sat. Something white was spread out on the wood. A scarf. Her scarf. He lifted it, tracing a thumb over the silky surface. It still smelled lightly like her vanilla lavender wind. He folded it gently, placed it under his arm, set into the evening with something nearly like hope pulling gently at his chest. Not a promise. Not yet. But perhaps, just perhaps, not the end. The next morning, Daniel stood in his kitchen, with a mug of black coffee growing cold in his hands. The scarf lay folded on the counter beside him, soft, pale, and clearly hers. He gazed at it for a moment. Then, not thinking much about it, he took out his phone and called a number that had not been called for months. His mom picked it up on the second ring. Want her number, she said before he could say anything. He hesitated. Yes. There was a rustling, a hum of satisfaction on the other end. I told you 5 minutes wouldn't be sufficient. Daniel massaged the nape of his neck, It's not. This isn't. A scarf is a completely admirable reason for an absence, dear. His mother interrupted him, reading him with ease. And don't delay too long. He spotted her at a little second-hand bookshop, wedged between a bakery and barber shop on a back street. She was cross-legged on the ground, flipping through a dog-eared pediatrics text, with tabs of color protruding at rakish angles. She sat up when she heard the bell ring and blinked in surprise. Daniel, he held up the scarf. You left that behind. Softened, and she stood up, sweeping non-existent dust from her jeans. I wondered where I lost that. He handed it over, their fingers touching for a second too long. I never thought I'd be seeing you again, she said, not blaming him, but truthful. I didn't intend to, he said. Then I did. There was a silence. Want to help me tote some of these? She asked in a careless tone, nodding toward the pile of books beside her. I'm searching for old editions. Some of my patients pick up better when the photographs seem hand-drawn, not slick and perfect. He nodded and fell in step. It wasn't a date. It was something other than a coincidence. They found themselves in a sunlit corner of the store, books between them. Laughter bubbling now and then among quiet intervals. There was no pretense this time, no timer ticking. She spoke to him about her routines, about the kids she worked with, and about how healing, real healing, was more about a hand to hold than a symptom to fix. At another time, she turned to him and said, "Why run a hospital if you don't believe in saving people anymore?" Daniel shifted back a little, considering. Maybe, because you were right, he said hesitantly. Healing isn't always surgery or big wins. Sometimes it's just building a place where individuals can attempt. Maintained his stare for a fraction of a second longer, then smiled. I believe that qualifies. A week later, Hannah came back to her hospital and was summoned into a staff meeting. The atmosphere in the room was altered, optimistic. One of the administrators explained that a special fund had just become available. Complete renovation grant for the children's unit, new updated equipment, fresh comfort furniture for families, art therapy materials, a quiet room for bereaved parents, anonymous donor. The administrator explained, didn't want naming rights. Just said it was in recognition of the nurses who don't always receive the credit they deserve. Hannah felt her breath catch. She said nothing. In her mind, went directly to a man in a quiet bookstore, softly thumbing through a medical textbook he no longer practiced from. Toward the evening, she passed through the pediatric ward. Her familiar hallway caught sight of building tape across where the new comfort room would rise, and next to it, temporary sign stuck to the wall in plain black script. Coming soon, a place for healing. She didn't need to ask who had penned the words. She brushed against the edge of the paper with her fingertips and breathed into no one. You're still rescuing people, Daniel, and perhaps, she thought, turning away. Just perhaps, so was she. The gala glittered with crystal chandeliers and gleaming silverware. The sort of evening where all the words were just a little too loud and laughter just a little too flawless. Daniel had been to dozens like it, awards nights, investment, publicity announcements. But this one was different because Hannah was arriving. With caution, intentionally, not to prove a point. But because he really wanted her with him. The first time he'd ever introduced someone from beyond his realm into the center of it. And part of him was anxious. He had done a decision. Tonight. He wished her to understand. She was where she was wanted. When Hannah came in, She paused at the top of the staircase, surveying the room. She had on a navy dress, classy but uncomplicated. Hair, drawn low at the back of her neck. No adornments aside from a narrow silver bracelet. She seemed serene, but Daniel saw her hesitation. He moved through the crowd quickly to meet her, and took her hand without waiting. "You look beautiful," he said. "You're the person I most want standing beside me." No titles, no expectations. Her eyes softened at his words and she smiled. There was still a quiet uncertainty beneath it. He didn't let go of her hand as they walked into the ballroom. At first, it all went very well. They chatted, drank champagne, and heard short speeches. Daniel simply presented her as Hannah, never qualifying, never explaining. But still, the questions arose. A woman in a red, high-fashion gown and pricey shoes. A famous cardiac surgeon cocked her head to the side and said, "One of the research fellows or public relations." Hannah replied calmly, "I was in pediatrics. I supplement emergency nursing shifts." A thin smile, a courteous nod, nothing obvious. But the room's temperature chilled ever so slightly near her. Later, when they walked past a couple of men, close to the silent auction table, one leaned over to whisper to the other, loud enough for Hannah to overhear. "If Blake's really serious, I'd have at least a medical director or some Harvard brain, not some floor nurse." She stood frozen for a beat, glass shivering slightly in her hand. Daniel, in the distance, giving a brief statement to the press, didn't notice her face split. When he came back, his eyes latched onto hers instantly. "Everything all right?" he asked softly. Hannah smiled, small and poised. "I think I'll go on out a bit early. Thanks for tonight." He moved to take her arm, holding her back softly. "Did something go wrong?" She paused at him, her tone soft but resolute. "You're a nice man, Daniel. I don't know if I can keep showing that I belong in places like this, when every glance, each word makes me feel like I'm being weighed on a scale I never consented to." Daniel stood stock still. What to say? "I'm sick of having to prove that I get to be seen," she said. He looked at her turn and headed for the door. Her scarf fell off her shoulder as she went, dangling behind like a discarded breath. She did not glance over her shoulder. That night, attempted a call. No response. He texted once, then again nothing. The next morning, he went to the hospital. She had switched her shifts to the emergency room. A nurse at the front desk glared at him when he asked for Hannah. "She's busy," the nurse replied coldly. "Perhaps it's best that you leave her alone." Daniel went back to his office, sat down behind his desk without a sound, and opened the drawer where he had stored the drawing he'd borrowed from the pediatric ward weeks earlier. A crayon sketch by a child of a nurse with bright yellow hair and radiant hands. "She has magic hands," the child had written in shaky handwriting. "She makes others feel better." Daniel looked at it for a very long time. How, he asked himself, could someone that could heal every other person feel like she wasn't deserving of love? And why, for the first time in years, he feel utterly helpless to make it so? 3 weeks had gone by since the gala. No calls, no messages, just nothing. Relived that evening in his mind more times than he knew how to count. The smile Hannah had given him in spite of the pain in her eyes. She had departed without her scarf, without a look back. Her words lingered with him. "I'm not sure I'm strong enough to stand beside you in a world like this." He had constructed that world, brick by brick, walls of logic, status gates. Now, for the first time, he wanted to destroy it. On a rainy Tuesday, He had walked past the tiny cafe by the hospital, the one with worn armchairs and books, stacked in the corners. Hannah would stop there for tea after her shifts. He entered the cafe, looking around the room, but she was not there. Instead, his gaze fell on a wooden plaque that hung over the counter. It stated, "To the nurses of the ER, the quiet heroes we forget to thank." He just stood there for a long time. Then he turned and left, a choice that he hadn't made in years. Morning at St. Vincent's emergency department was pandemonium. Flu season, citywide bus accident, staff. Everyone functioned like clockwork, fueled by caffeine and adrenaline. Hannah had not slept much. Her bun was askew, her scrub top a bit rumpled, and her hands bore the faint scent of antiseptic. She was taking notes on a chart when a voice behind her stated, "Brought coffee and donuts, and if it's okay, I can assist with bandaging today." She turned and stiffened. Daniel stood before her and rolled up sleeves. No blazer, no tie, only a man carrying 2 trays of coffee and a paper bag stuffed with pastries. Mile was nervous, his eyes firm. "Daniel," she breathed. "What are you doing here?" "I can't change the world that I live in overnight," he said, soft, controlled. "But I can walk into yours. And if you'll let me, I'd like to remain in it longer than 5 minutes today." Grew quiet. Dr. Wallace, a older doctor passing by, offered Daniel a knowledgeable pat on the shoulder. "Welcome to the ER, Blake," elbowed her colleague. "Is that the CEO?" "Wait, he knows how to wrap a wrist." Hannah emitted a little surprised laugh. Daniel glanced at her then. Really looked, and for once, she didn't look away. They spent the day together, not talking much. He assisted quietly, handed gauze, wrapped ankles, took vitals when needed. He didn't try to impress anyone, he just helped. Later, after the shift ended, they sat on a bench outside the staff entrance. The sun was low, casting golden light across the sidewalk. Gave him a first aid kit. "You have a paper cut," she said, pointing to his hand. Daniel opened the kit, removed a small antiseptic wipe, hesitated. "May I?" he asked. She nodded. He took her hand, carefully cleaned the tiny scratch on the palm of her hand she hadn't seen. Then he pressed a tiny bandage over it, smoothing out the edges very carefully. No sweeping gestures, no words. Just this gentleness where it counted. Hannah peered at their hands, then up at him. And Daniel, still clasping her fingers softly, remained silent. He didn't have to. She already knew. The air had that same sharp edge, the same burning leaves swirling on the wind, the same fluttering lights bordering vendor stands. But somehow everything seemed different, had gone by since Daniel appeared at the ER and requested to remain in Hannah's universe. Now, the fall festival had come back like it always did, with its hot cider, mellow music, soothing hum of the Ferris wheel, ascending into the dusk. Hannah was just ending her shift when her phone vibrated. She drew it out of her coat pocket. A text from Daniel. "I would like to see the town from above, but not only for 5 minutes." A happy smile crept over her face. That night, when the sun hovered low over the rooftops, Hannah strolled towards the fairgrounds. Her blonde hair was tied back in a gentle bun. A pale blue scarf encircled around her neck, fluttering softly. He was already there, at the base of the Ferris wheel by the same cabin. No coat and tie tonight. Just a knit sweater and a little wool blanket under his arm. No words first, just a smiling look. "Hey," she said, her voice breezy. "Hey," he said. Right on time. They climbed into the cabin. Beneath them, climbing steadily above the rooftops and fair tents. But neither glanced down, Hope we don't lose power this time," she teased, looking at the dancing lights along the wheel. Daniel grinned. "And if we do, now I brought a blanket." She laughed. This time it was easy real. Her shoulders eased. As their cabin approached the top, into his pocket, and produced a thin box, not a ring box, but narrower. Inside was a chain with a small Ferris wheel, charm intricately etched. She blinked. He didn't get down on one knee, didn't request her hand, gazed at her. "The first time I met you, I intended to leave within 5 minutes," he said. "That was my rule. No attachment, no risk." He stopped, his tone level. "But 5 minutes with you changed something. You laughed like you meant it. You listened without judgment. You made me want to stay. Just that night. But in the version of myself I am when I'm with you." She said nothing. She didn't have to. He put the necklace up and fastened it around her neck, the charm lying just over her heart. "This is not an offer," he told her. "Not yet. This is not a guarantee that I can see everything about the future. This is only a promise that every day, I'll decide to remain." Grew gentle. "In case you ever feel uncertain or afraid, I'll be around. I'll be the hand you can cling to," her palm over the charm, tears glistening in her eyes. Her voice came scarcely above a whisper. "You are." They said no more. The cabin started its descent. The fair shone below, bathed in golden light. She leaned against him, her fingers slipping into his, not out of fear, simply because. When they exited the ride, the sound of the festival came back in full force, ran by with caramel apples and glowing balloons. A slow song played somewhere around the carousel. Daniel turned to her, low voice. This time, going away, she gazed up at him, eyes clear and confident. "And this time, I'm not releasing you." They moved forward, hand in hand, throng and lights. No words necessary now, only the quiet, sure knowledge that something good had started. Something worth remaining for. "Thank you for sharing this last blind date." The CEO had intended to depart after 5 minutes, but her laughter kept him there forever. This story awakened something within you. Be it a memory, a tear, or a quiet smile. Don't forget to subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories for more heart-deep stories such as this one. We upload new romantic adventures every week, designed to remind you that love usually starts where the logic finishes. And hey, in case you felt something true today, that hype button to get this tale in front of more souls who may need to read it. Until next time, remain open, remain kind, and remember, sometimes 5 unprogrammed minutes can redefine an entire lifetime.